Here it is Sunday, and winter has returned. It felt like spring a little while ago. I haven't gotten to the, hey, what are we doing yet in DAK? I was about to hit that, but I guess I'll do that now because I'm starting to set up the next month, and we ran into a problem. Okay. So what's happened so far in the story? Look, I have not been fighting at all properly. There's no question of that. First of all, I've made a couple of errors, but let's look at what happened and why. The Italians crossed into Egypt. They got flung back, sort of. More or less, they weren't able to take Mursa Matrua. And they felt like, okay, look, if we're not able to take it, we'll try to defend Sidi al-Barani. The Brits pushed them back, all the way back towards Bardia and Solom, but never took those. Now, there are reasons for that, and I'll get into that in a moment. Since then, now that we entered in March, and we're moving into April now, the Italians have pushed back and are sieging Mursa Matrua, and the Brits have given up a line, the idea of keeping a line at Mursa Matrua. They had an initial line running down here. They gave that up and have fallen back to here. I felt like that was somewhat historical. It's not. I'll get to that in a moment. Meanwhile, the Greek campaign is draining them of resources, and I'm beginning to build a new British line a little west of El Alamein down here. What's it? I guess the Gaza station line. I don't know. The reason being, I can form a double line that way and get a defense in depth. And that's part of the issue here, is that I'm thinking, defense in depth works anywhere, but I'm thinking very much in World War I terms throughout this entire game. Some of that's just inclination, right? I'm very cautious by nature. Yeah, were World War I generals cautious? I don't know. It's a hard thing. By the way, when I say it's winter, it doesn't look any different, right? It's rainy and whatever. It's colder, and we've had snow a couple of times in the past few days, and are due to have more. You can actually see there's still a little bit left on my neighbor's roof, probably on mine too. But I can't see mine. And it's hard to tell because, like, that neighbor has none. So, I don't know. Anyway, I have played it very much in a World War I fashion. Some of that has to do with just my mindset, my cautiousness, whatever. A lot more has to do with the supply system. My initial play, trying to play the compass scenario, I ran out of supplies with the Brits. I plowed in, I looked like I was doing great, and then I was out of supply. And I'm like, okay, well, I got to be more careful. That was a lesson to be learned. I've played OCS before. I've known, not much, but I've known that you can run out of supplies, and in this particular game, it's particularly hard. Okay, so the Italian advance, I don't feel like that. The initial Italian advance, I don't feel like it was particularly weird. The British counterattack, though, suffered from a couple of factors. One was I did not, and if I'm having this problem throughout the game, is charts that I'm not able to pay attention to, or maybe even know that they exist, because of their placement or how many different charts and boxes and everything there are everywhere. But I missed that the Desert Railway went from a 2 token to a 1 full supply point fairly early in November. Would it have really hurt to just make it always 1 point, you know, whatever. But yeah, I mean, it did not strike me and didn't make any, you know, it just didn't become part of my reality, and therefore I went like 3 months without those extra supplies. And remember, the Brits had enough trouble in the compass scenario that was the historical one with running out of supplies, and with me so short on supplies and everything, I played things very, very cautiously and slowly. I also got some horrendous die rolls, and the 7th Armored got itself beaten up pretty quickly. Another thing that's been pointed out regularly is that I don't use overruns very much. Look, the few times I've tried attacking without a disorder on the enemy, I have had real trouble, right? Even picking on Italians, and certainly the Italians coming back absolutely need the disordered result. Well, neither the Brits nor the Italians have hip shoot capability, which means the only way they're going to get a disordered result for an overrun is if they get a turn flip-flop. And those don't happen very often. So yeah, I felt almost compelled, especially when I'm in, you know, fortifications and whatnot, when the defender's in fortifications, to make sure that I hit the hell out of them and disorder them. That gives the defender an opportunity to fire back and to disorder the attacking units. And then, hey, we're in the same position as we would have been, you know, might as well have overrun, right? Okay, look, the British 7th Armored probably could have overrun some stuff a little bit more effectively, you know, with better odds than it made its attacks. But with the low fuel and whatnot, having to pay to move, extra movement for the attack would have been prohibitive, and also I don't think it would have mattered. The attacks that really screwed the 7th Armored over, they lost surprise on. The odds would have been better that they lose surprise on an overrun. Why? Well, and I'm not, you know, validating my own play. I'm just saying it would have ended up just as badly. The chances of surprise on both sides is greater on an overrun attack. Now, the quality of the British units of the 7th Armored should have overcome that, right? But given that I had surprise against me on the harder to reach table, it means that it wouldn't have. And what's worse is any kind of attempts to disorganize or whatever wouldn't have been there. So I would have been facing a higher quality of Italian unit. An Italian unit force positioned here could easily have a quality of 4. That means I only have a 1-point advantage at best with the 7th Armored attacking. So anyway, yeah. Also, air superiority was lost by the Brits early on. Now at this point, things are a little closer. What is this guy doing? Yeah, okay. Whatever. All right. Now let's go to where my travails are over here on the setup chart. So I'm just working my way through fine. This works fine. I get here, 149th Field Artillery Battalion. You know what it doesn't give me? It doesn't give me the strength of the unit. Most other places do. Is it necessary that it does? I don't know. All the field artillery have the same values. But it's weird when something isn't following the same format. There's a... there's a facet of that. But then the next thing, and this is much more disturbing to me, is place in Matan Bagush, the Western Desert Corps headquarters. First of all, that was withdrawn. I put it in, or was removed. I assumed all the removeds were going to come out. Well, no, apparently not. Okay, fine. I'm glad I didn't bag it. But, and I'm glad I'm keeping things in their boxes, I guess. I don't know if that's easier to find, the destroyed is getting quite large. If the removed get as large as the Italian destroyed does over the course of this campaign, that's going to be as problematic as pawing through the bag in some ways. Okay, but Matan Bagouche is right here. I've given that up already. So again, I'm going to have to make up rules for where the Western Desert comes in. Why did I give that up? Well, I did not have a good defensive line coming down this way from Mersa Matruh. My line collapsed, and I tried to defend along the coast, and I decided that's indefensible and pulled back further. And at this point, okay, I'll fake things. I'll have the headquarters come in somewhere else. But I've got a lot of that, hey, if the game doesn't follow the historical, and someone else validated my feelings on this, there are going to just be problems in this game. And that's all there are. By the way, I've got a little marker here. That's going to be a reminder that we're going to be seeing these. So I'm going to put this on the 26th. Because there's nothing else to remind me that I have to start paying attention to this chart now. And likewise, I had another problem where I wasn't withdrawing the British units that had to go to the Sudan, which were, by a variable die roll. There's a chart, which is not in the book of charts and tables, but is here on the back of this. And again, it's hard to remember that you have to start doing things, that you have to check stuff. That was something right from the beginning, but I just never ran into it again. Like, I read it in the rules, I remembered it, it was there, and then because the chart was not available where I needed to see it, because I'm focusing on the reinforcements, etc. for this turn, it fell from my mind. Ideally, I would be playing this again sometime in my life. I don't think I'll have that long, but I hope not. But anyway, I think that will be a one-game problem. I think a lot of the problems here will just be a one-game problem. But again, I doubt I'm going to be playing this again, just because, I've got so many fucking games, and I hope a lot less time than it will take to get through them all. Anyway, I also had difficulty, and you can see kind of my light is reflecting off there. I have a light onto here, because for whatever reason, my eyes aren't able to cope with the light today. Like, this seems like a reasonable amount of light. My glasses aren't too much dirtier than usual. But I had to switch to my better set of glasses to find that 149 field. I don't know why. I just could not read the designations on it. Anyway, I'll continue my setup. I know, blah, blah, blah. I'm chattering so much and not getting much play in, but hey, that's life, right? In some ways, certainly, the struggles I'm having with the, not so much the reinforcements, although I had a fuck up there as well, but with the presentation of information that's necessary to play the game. All the different charts, all the different, just the busyness of the map situation. And then, the withdrawals and all that, the replacement units, all kind of stuff like that. It all compounds to be a rather massive burden, and I think it's important to get that point across and then to keep hitting on it whenever it hits. Because I don't want you to think that, well, it was just a passing thing. I think that is a problem that will come up regularly. For a personal note, same thing with my eyes. I'm clumsy today. Now, I feel fine. Like yesterday, yesterday I slept the whole fucking day because getting back from dancing, And I had another 8 hours sleep, this morning. But yesterday, getting back from dancing, whatever, I'm always wiped out, just absolutely wiped out I got an hour and 15-minute walk each way, and I'm dancing hard for like, I don't know, 5 hours. Maybe not, not continuously, but say for half of it, I'm dancing pretty damn hard. Like professional hard, okay? Not like normal people dance. So let's just put it that way. And I've expended so much when I get back. Plus, I drink pretty heavily. Although I'm trying to maintain some level of sobriety more recently. But yeah, I mean, I'm so wiped out on most Saturdays that I can't do anything. I don't feel any effects now, except that my eyes aren't working quite as well as I think they should, and my manual dexterity seems to be a little fucked up. But it's just odd to me that you have these little, you wouldn't think you have these issues, but I think a little bit more of aging comes in, like a couple, even now, 2 days after, whatever. Very useful here. So like I said, the variable reinforcements are showing up there. I put the marker there to remind me to start rolling with this. Sure, the table tells you everything you need to know. Memorize all the tables completely and know exactly when and where everything happens, and you're fine. But it would be really helpful to have a reminder in this master reinforcements thing. Commonwealth starts rolling for variable reinforcements, It would just be helpful, right? By the way, I also had issues where the axis was continuing to get, I think, too many supplies or too few supplies because of this chart. Now that's definitely my own fault, but again, I got used to pulling in a certain amount of points, and I reversed them, but I got used to pulling in to whatever extent I could. I got used to pulling in a certain amount of points and stopped thinking that I have to check the chart. And I don't know what you can do about that. There's no design decision that I think can fix that. It's just a matter of that's the way my mind was working. So the game has been replete with errors and really constitutes very much a what-if scenario rather than the designer's interpretation of what the actual history would be, for whatever that matters. What's this doing here? Oh, he comes back. Yeah. Oh, put him over there. Don't want to figure him out right now. Anyway, I'm still working my way through. Ran into another issue here. So there's an RHA that's going to go into the dead pile. And I mean, look, it happens on a specific turn. I have no equipment or anything to rebuild it. I won't have any until the 29 turn, which is one turn after I get the possible equipment. It just feels like details that are too much, right? That it comes in on that specific date in order to be replaced. But anyhow, in addition to that, I'm supposed to bring in the 68th medium artillery. I find a 69th medium artillery. I can't find the 68th in my counter tray. I don't know if this is a prior mistake of mine, but the exact same values, you have a 68th there. So apparently my eyes weren't working before, or else it's bringing the same unit in twice instead of the 69th coming in, but suspect it's my eyes. Luckily they're the same value. Maybe all the mediums have that strength. I don't know. And that's the way work. Oh shit! No, I'm just mistaken. Why the hell? I don't know. I'm having trouble. I'm jumping between April and May and and that screwed me up twice now. And once I just started putting down all the Germans. Like I jumped from partway through here to down to here and started putting these Germans in. That's no good. And now this time I read the 606 anti-air battalion, which is fine. I found that. But somehow I read that it was artillery, maybe jumping down here again. I don't know. Honestly, I had trouble with CWB's setup more than reinforcement, and the NBS as well to some extent. But I remember when I first hit Dean's sort of shorthands for notating everything, there were definitely points where I'm like, well, what the fuck does that mean? And then I started realizing, you know, some of the information, that the information's present, you just have to like intuit how to read it. And I'm sure the same is here, but it's just, I don't know. It feels like there's information that maybe isn't necessary, but he switches format around and stuff like that in ways that make it feel like, oh, I'm missing something or something's different here, and it's just not. Now, all the Axis reinforcements, or the vast majority of them, come in at the beginning of the month. And that just means, hey, look, I get to shift all my, you know, I get to drop all my stuff in the box right away, which is actually kind of neat because it gives me a lot of flexibility in terms of how I want to order my reinforcements in terms of coming in and whatnot. For the Brits, no, it's not like that. They're coming in, and it's understandable, right? These forces probably were in Sicily waiting for transfer, whereas the British stuff is in transit, and really the Brits didn't have a lot of control over what they wanted to ship when and where. The forces, as they became available, got thrown into the various locations where they could be useful. But it does mean that like all the reinforcements up there are British. Is there anything I didn't do? I upped these, and now 2nd Armored and 6th Australian are at full capability, and everything is training at this point that's on the board. I don't think I quartered these. 7 and 3, call that 8, so I lose two points. Painful. And you know, I mean, I tried to pull as much as I could out. I think it's a hopeless task to try to grab larger amounts of resources out of Tripoli. I actually think I emphasized that too much. On the other hand, the Italians are doing just fine, because if the headquarters is showing up here at Matan Bagoush, supposedly, well, that, you know, is at best, would be at best my front line at this point in the game. I'm also going to be getting the New Zealand railroad engineers very shortly. They're not at all useful anymore. I've lost the railhead. And, you know, by the time, I wish I had a better timeline here as to what's happening to get a feel for, you know, obviously I'm slow walking my German units forward. It's really hard for me to compare what I sort of picture. So like, I don't know the specific dates of things, and of course I could look them up, whatever, but it would be helpful to have just, have that in hand, I guess. But in order to picture, hey, how far behind schedule am I with who and what's going on and everything. Anyway, setup between, the monthly setups, that takes a fair amount of effort. And I think I need a break after that. I'm actually kind of impressed that I got it all done in one swipe, because honestly, the axis, again, it's all one turn, it all comes in. Which prevents you from being like, it means that you have a month to get all your crap in, more or less. So that's kind of cool. And I got another improved fighter, a BF-109E, which I will definitely, I can put that wherever the hell I want, actually. It's range of 41. I'll put it with other fighters. That's going to give the Germans serious air superiority here. Because the way planes work in this, you can place them wherever the fuck you want. Where's my other fighter? I know I have another one. Oh no, I combined those. Ah. That'll work. But that's going to give me a hell of a lot of air power. I got to start being careful. These bombers might be in range of fighter sweeps. They're barely in range. Yeah, I had better pull these guys back. Oh, I don't know where the hell they are. That's not an air base. Should they be there already? Look, I don't know, but it doesn't matter because they can refuel without any problem. And I kind of haven't been using them because the Italians are under air cover anyway. So the only thing I could have done is an air superiority type mission to try to knock them out. Which I feel, so the original game had this concept of protected planes, which I think would have been planes that you couldn't strike using fighter sweeps. And that rule seems to have gone away, and now the fighter sweeps, I don't know. I just don't know how the game has evolved in terms of all that, and I am not sure, but it seems to me that this is a general series thing, that like being able to knock out enemy bombers from a long distance feels a little too powerful. Those guys aren't up and patrolling or anything like that. So I kind of feel like fighter sweeps should be limited to fighters, but here's the problem. That means that fighters are only able to deal with bombers using the intercept tactic mission, which also isn't exactly correct. Like if the bombers go up, if they're going up and conducting any missions, the fighters will be able to do something to them, and the question is just when and how, and so I think the sweeps kind of work, but I don't know how much, because if I'm committing to missions out here, even if I can't directly intercept, it seems like I should be able to I don't know, to have regular sweeps through the area that every now and then are going to hit those bombers and cause them the same kind of problem that the long-range stuff should. So in a way, it feels like falling back. Of course, at some point or another, falling back's not going to work. Like I can fall back to these air bases, but There isn't much beyond them, and I have to stay within range of Alexandria in order to pull my supply. Now, conceivably, let's see, anything near Port Said? See, any of the ports, Suez I think counts as a port as well. Any of the ports can serve as any of the Nile ports can serve as a absolute supply source. So if I built an air base near Port Said, there aren't any there. If I improve Suez's, or maybe one of these, I'll be able to still project the same kind of bomber capability that I've been projecting all game without the Axis being able to do much about it. A lot of talk, nothing happened yet. But honestly, the between-month setup is one of the bigger expenditures of effort in the game. It's kind of like sorting the counters, though. Should I really be chattering about it? Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Oh, shit, my battery was not charging. It claimed it was fully charged. All right. Weather and events, nothing happened. The Brits got initiative. They're going to force the Italians, et cetera, to go first. The reason being, I don't have a clear, hey, what do I want to withdraw anymore, right? And I want to take away that double turn opportunity. If I took my action, I could pull the last 9th Australian out of here. But then there's nothing defending Mersa Matruh except this artillery. I could pull my artillery out, but then I don't have the opportunity to burn my supplies as well and try to delay things. So I think forcing the Italians into the double turn here while I don't have a disorder on me or anything seems like a perfect time. And it's also a perfect time for me to charge my battery on a different way. It's actually kind of a big deal. I think I'm not sure because both my cameras are having trouble. I've got one that I use for charging and I have this one that has to be able to charge itself. And then I have my crappy battery charger, which is really problematic. But I've had these cameras go bad at the plug before. I have another one that uses the same batteries, but I can't get it to charge at all. And I'm worried that I'm like, all my cameras are dying at once, which is not at all good. Yeah. All right. There's one more decision I have to make at the beginning of the month, which is whether or not to release some of the Fliegen Corps to use on map. It's tempting, I have to say. I'm running low on bombers. This guy has no bomb capability. He's just a transport. I'm running low on bombers here. However, I still have a decent amount of them. I'm getting further on air superiority with that BF-109. I think I'm okay. I think I want to keep pulling in ridiculous amounts of supply. Yeah, I know, I just attrition it, but that +2 almost ensures that I will roll a 7 or more, which means I'll be getting huge amounts. Plus, I have regular units to start sucking into Tripoli, which is also important. So I am going to keep my supportive shipping going rather than bring more air power in, much as air power is so valuable to me. Now, by moving the Germans into place here, this gives me some interesting opportunities. I can do a hip shoot on this now. That's not going to help the Germans directly, but then I throw the Ariete division in as, it's currently got a reserve marker. Maybe it should, maybe it shouldn't, I don't know. But I can fuel it up, run an attack in, and maybe take Marsa Matrua quickly enough so that my other Italians can move forward and put more pressure going forward. I think that's what I'm going to try. Let's try not to play World War I anymore. I don't know. That's not fueled yet. I was considering an attack on this. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Barely. If I had the hip shoot, I would do it, but I don't have it with that. I'd have to move a unit up there to spot in order to get the hip shoot. And that's something that I can't do there, but I can do here. And it seems like not a bad idea to me. To do that, I need to do some counter air. My BF-109 failed. At least it didn't get damaged. But then the Italian, G50 succeeded completely. And it didn't damage the Brits, but that's okay. And now I've cleared the path. I don't know if this was in range. 1, 2, 3. Actually, it wasn't even in range, so I didn't have to knock it out. But I might need to have done so later. And I have the air superiority right now, so I might as well try to knock out those fighters because I had the bonus with the BF-109. But probably shouldn't have risked the Italians. But that brought something else to mind for me, which was the way the counter air works in this. And I don't know, maybe it has to in a lot of games, but it reminds me a little bit about the way Third Reich used to work, where it's like, oh look, the enemy's got air units, I have to fight them. And in that game, if you sent enough units in, you'd do an air combat, and you would automatically expend the enemy air unit, the defensive air units, when you did a counter air attack. Your own air units would also be expended on this, but it was kind of cool. You'd be sending, a slight advantage or equal numbers just to be able to knock out the enemy air units so that they couldn't intercept on you. It just has that same feel. Trying to think what other games that I've played enough, and the problem is the things that I'm thinking of, I really haven't played as much as I did Third Reich, so they don't really settle in my head. Obviously, air power is completely abstracted in Desert Fox. You just have air points assigned to one side or the other. Kind of reminds me of Central Front series that way. You're not actually managing them. Rommel in Tunisia has a detailed air combat system, but I don't remember too much about how you cancel out enemy air. I think Panzerkrieg kind of had something similar to this, but again, I don't really remember because some of them have things like, and I think the original OCS did honestly, stationing planes in flight and whatnot, and all kind of complexity like that. I kind of like the simplicity of this. It feels like, first of all, it's more detail than Desert Fox gives. Desert Fox just scripts it for you. And secondly, but secondly, it doesn't overwhelm the ground game. I remembered one of the problems with a hip shoot, which is you can only use one plane, which made it an iffy proposition. Now you can use more one plane hip shoots to keep trying to get the disordered, but it meant that I was rolling on kind of a weaker table, but I got a good enough die roll that I got the disordered. So I think we fuel up Ariete and we plow in there and see what happens. And we hit once in conjunction with this stack of infantry here. Unfortunately, of course, because we're facing better units, actually, the value should have been even, but I rolled like a 4. We got surprised, and the result isn't that terrible. It's an AL1 DO1. The defender has no option to retreat, really, so 9th Australian took the hit, but it's a full brigade, so it has another step. The infantry has used up its movement, but that means I still think I have movement from some of the armor. All of it? 1.5, 4.5. Oh, geez, most of this stuff can't move. I could hit with just these 2 units. Here's the problem. I have eaten up all of my local supply to make this attack. I'm done. Do I want to launch an attack with just these 2 units? Now I can't afford this attack. Yeah, sure, I can go to low ammo, and maybe that's what I have to do. But the capability, the advantages of busting through here go away if I have to make a second attack, if I have to go to low ammo and whatnot. This has to do with me being so slow at pulling my resources, my supplies, up to the very front. So if I hit with this, I get no multiplier because there's like a town there or something. So I'd be looking at 8 strength points to 3.5. That can't be right. 3.5 halved. For 2. 8 to 2. That only gives me a 4 to 1. I had much better odds on the last one. This would only cost me 2 supply though. 2 tokens of supply. Yeah, I think we have to go for it. I think we have to, because this is going to be a fairly cheap attack compared to like bringing everything in. Plus, the British artillery gets a chance to fire and everything. And I'm out of movement points at this point. A similar attack, a similar effect. The Australian brigade is gone, but you know, I didn't get surprised this time, which is good because my odds are much worse. But I still failed to take the hacks. I was able to push forward some supplies into range that I can make one more attempt at an attack. I got to be careful, you know. I mean, this lets me use 6 units. There's almost nothing left. There's just Egyptians left defending it, plus the artillery, which have parenthesized defensive strengths of 1. I think those add up. I think it's not I can't find anything that makes it just a single point or a point if nothing else is there. Some games have that kind of rule. I don't think this does, and I've been kind of undercounting the artillery on defensive capabilities and headquarters and whatnot. It feels weird that a bunch of artillery has a bunch of defensive value. I don't know why. I mean, there's more men and whatnot, but it just feels to me like, yeah, but that's not what they're meant for, you know? They would put as few men on the line as they could. Using Rommel and some Egyptians to attack, spending some but not much of the supplies. We get a success this time. We get an exploit result. Only Rommel can take advantage of it, but because his troops are higher quality. But that means we're going to be able to probably wipe it all out. I'm not sure. And I gotta swap batteries because this one's dying too. And the exploitation attack that went in there did not get surprise, didn't get a great result, ended up taking an AL1, which meant that I lost my pioneers for the Germans. And there's still a British artillery left there. Fuck. I've been misreading things or misremembering things. So, shipping rules here, and this is kind of interesting. So I think, we'll look in the original rules. I think there's no mention of zones of control for shipping in the DAK specific rules. Over here, port operations, trace supply, this could be negated. However, in either edition of DAK, units do not negate enemy zones of control for port operations. I thought it said the opposite. I thought, like my memory, and I've been playing it that way, let's mark up another one, was that I was allowed to ship into enemy zones of control, in and out of enemy zones of control in this game. I thought that was necessary to make the Tobruk situation work. Of course, Tobruk has a ring of fortresses around it and whatnot, so it would be easier. It's easier to defend Tobruk, but I thought that I could ship and have been shipping things out of Mersa Matruh. I'm not trying to keep it a lot. I'm not trying to keep stuff in there. I'm trying to ship stuff out. Apparently, that is in violation of this. Now, I find that weird because here, there is no discussion of enemy zones of control affecting shipping that I've noticed. Which almost makes me feel like they're adding a restriction into this game. Now, at this point, I don't think I'm able to negate this. 4.5b. Let's find that. An enemy zone of control if it contains a friendly combat unit at that time. If the unit negating would do nothing. I still wouldn't be able to withdraw that last artillery unit that's there. That's gonna have to die. And it is actually, this should be gone, right? No, because we had to spend 2 tokens on defense each time. So that's actually not gone, and it's going to cost 2 to recuperate that completely exhausted artillery. I don't know, it's like a quarter strength or something at this point. Whatever. But, yeah, I wouldn't be able to pull that out no matter what. I would be able to rip up some of this airbase, which might be worth doing. But I'm going to look in the original rules, because I don't think shipping's in the rules that came with this outside of here. And here, they do not talk about zones of control impacting shipping, which means when the game was originally designed, what I'm doing would work. And I'm not, I mean, here they very much, units do not, in either edition of DAK, units do not negate enemy zones of control for port operations. That's pretty fucking clear what the later rules intended it to be. However, I think the original doesn't have shipping as part of the OCS core rules. How long I was? 19 is ports. Let's see what the zone of control rules say here. Because this is really where, like, naval operations were added to the game. I don't know where zones of control are. That's what I want to find. General game concepts is what I'm guessing. See, that would match where it is here. Okay, shipping is not mentioned here. That's one of the things that fucks up the zone of control. But let's check shipping itself. Ports 19. Yeah, I don't see it here either, which, honestly, I feel like I'm going to keep playing it the way I am. Again, this can't withdraw. I understand the idea of being able to interfere with the port capacity, but I don't understand being able to completely, you got to have something like, the withdrawal capability. And if your shipping can't handle that, it's somewhat disturbing. Now, the problem, though, is that shipping might come under fire. So I don't know. But Anyway, like it seems very clear that they do not want to allow you to do what I've been doing. I don't know. All right, I guess we go to the British side of the turn. And yeah, that was pretty disappointing. I mean, I threw pretty much all my resources in and still could not take Mersa Matruh, even though it was not that heavily defended. And I mean, I pulled remaining supplies by truck up. I think all my trucks are empty now. Those guys sure are. Oh, these guys, no, I've got another, I got another load of trucks coming. Oh, you know what I have to do though? I have to send that Ariete divisional truck somewhere. Now, there's no supplies for a long ways. At the very least, I think it's going back to Benghazi to try to get some supplies and bring them up so that that division can operate again. As we head into the British side of things, I'm finding myself having to constantly fiddle with not just that little battery thing up there, which has consistently been problematic, but even with my other camera. Turns out, so what happens is I fiddle around with the plug, it looks like it's charging. Turns out this battery was completely charged, and so it shuts down. But sometimes it gives that same behavior when the battery is not completely charged, and it ends up confusing me. Anyway, on to the British side of things. Turns are taking longer than they feel like they should. Maybe because I'm talking too much. But it feels like I'm putting a lot of effort in for not a lot of pieces on the board, you know? They're not taking as long as Central Front Series was. I'll give them that much. But yeah, it's taking as much as like a map or two, if that would. Okay, and the Brits pull back the rest of their units. I'm leaving this Egyptian there. Feels a little funny. It feels like he should probably be allowed to withdraw with the British forces rather than be left out there as a potential speed bump and quite possibly defector. But, you know, honestly, chances are he'll defect, so I kind of don't know that I want him with my units. Yeah, because he's really low quality. And trying to get into position to build this El Alamein line as my second layer of defense. I have a third layer back here right near Alexandria, but this is not too good. I might want to build a little bit more. I don't know. If it gets that far, I'm in a lot of trouble. That's all I have to say. I'm in the best terrain that I can be in up here, and if I can't hold this line, I think it's over, right? Given the mistakes I've made, I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up in a massive Axis victory like that, and I'm okay with that. I really am. I haven't been able to see an Axis victory ever before in a North Africa game. So, that I remember, of this nature, where Alexandria is going to fall or whatever. So yeah, I'm kind of excited by the prospect. On the other hand, it's only due to my my errors and poor play. Greeks. I got the die roll for the execution. What does that mean? I moved this forward, but it doesn't. What the fuck is this? Okay. What happens when we hit execution? When it hits execution, execute that turn's withdrawals and remove the marker from the deployment. No additional withdrawals will be made. Then when it hits termination, we check to see which units that were in Greece come back. Okay. Sounds fair. So this is gone now. And We won't be withdrawing more, which is good because we're pretty depleted. Here it is Monday. Tomorrow I think I go shopping. I don't know if I can manage it. But game's been slowing down a lot in terms of me being able to play. One, yeah, it's taking longer. And two, I'm sleeping more. Kind of think the latter is, I don't know, they're mixed. And I'm not really sleeping that much more. I'm up late at night, wasting my time. Anyway, we're ready to hit this turn. Let's roll the weather and the random event for what it's worth. Uh-oh. Suez Canal Mine, active access area unit stationed in Crete, and weather on map B. No, yeah, okay. And a minor effect, honestly, it delays reinforcements. Okay. And one more thing. Who's got the initiative call? That's going to be the Italians. I don't know. I think they can afford to go second. If I ignore the special rules for DAK here, which are only in this 4.3 rulebook, they're not present, as far as I can tell, not special rules for DAK, but anything to do with the shipping rules being invalidated by zones, right? I didn't see anything that related to that, and because of that, this unit is able to stay alive because I'm able to ship a token into there every turn from Alexandria where it doesn't count, and they're not starving. They're not, basically, they're not going to surrender is all that it says. Now, I can see an argument for, the one argument that I can see for why DAK has anything like a special rule here is that it's possible that the hex size in DAK is smaller than in most of the games of the series. I think I'll check that because otherwise it seems very weird that like ports would be able to be intervened. But it may just be more of a, well, you know, most of the ports except for Tobruk would surrender fairly easily. Yeah, that's bothersome to me somehow. I don't know. I don't know why. Again, anyway, this would be much less of a barrier, and it would have been much harder for me to defend, although I gave up the defense anyway, that stupid line I was trying to build. You can't do it that way. It's gotta go north-south. You can find scale called out in the exclusive rules. In the general rules, they are 5 miles per hex, but they don't always end up at that size. And, you know, it might not have been put in the rules. It might be in some kind of designer's notes or something somewhere. I don't know. It's probably not that worth looking at. I feel like, so the smallest is 2.5 miles per hex in any of these games, according to the 4.3 rules. I don't know if I'm that convinced that, like, a port under fire from a couple miles of distance might not still be able to operate to some extent. Yeah, I mean, it depends on what's there, right? You know, if you've got artillery units placed, yeah, they're a danger to the ships. If you don't have artillery placed along the coast, I'm a lot more iffy about those guys with machine guns, you know, being able to do anything about a landing. But if you've got artillery there and you're expending that, I don't know, because, you know, you can't destroy the ports, which is part of the thing, is that normally you can knock out port capacity completely by bombarding it. Here you can't hit the ones that don't have a track. So like that may be part of the thinking, is that you have to be able to cancel it out. I just don't buy that, you know, what's necessarily here, which I think includes no artillery in here, is able to influence the port at all. Supplies for the siege of Mersa Matruh have gotten so bad. I mean, I used everything up, right? That I can't even refit all my airplanes. I refit my fighters up here. I can't refit these bombers. I'm basically out of supplies. Now, I can bring more in, but they're just not available for this turn. Not only did I kind of expedite my shipping of material to the front, felt like I needed to. No shipping to Benghazi, shipped it straight to Sollum and Sidi Barani and whatnot. But I also found a hidden dump I got down here. The one I captured. Forgot about that. Didn't make any sense. And so I have a little bit more supplies. I can launch an attack and almost certainly take Mersa Matruh, which maybe means I move some units forward just to take the Matan Braguish at the very least, and a few, you know, just to get my position a little bit more forward leaning. Mainly though, forces moving forward, you know, this constant stream. Here come the Panzers, you know, 15th Panzer Division coming in. But most of my effort is in just schlepping the supplies back and forth. At the capture of Mersa Matruh, our supply situation improves greatly. Another full supply point there. It's like maybe 50% more than I was able to schlep up, and, you know, where did this full point come from? Oh, trucks, yeah. And I was like, wow, how did I get a full point in there? Yeah, I'm moving trucks in and out. Maybe to the point where I can start rationalizing and getting stuff into Benghazi and driving it. Although I honestly don't know if that's the most efficient. Like, it's not the most efficient at draining Tripoli, which is kind of the problem, is that Tripoli's just collecting up so much supplies right now that I can't send anywhere, and it's going to take a 1/4 hit. So it's like, I feel like I'm completely wasting supplies, but I gotta think in terms of not what's in Tripoli, because that probably is just going to stay. I mean, I just look, and the shipping numbers going into Tripoli are very big for almost every month. Threes are higher, which I have trouble getting out of there, right? Because, well, mainly because my coastal shipping seems to be one most turns. And then, yeah, I got my little marker here to tell me that happened on turn 2 of the month. I think these are kind of useless. Like, you know, by the time the Allies are going to be able to retake any of that stuff, if it happens within the length of this campaign, I don't know. Given their U.S. units, though, I don't see how, like, I think they should be able to, but again. Losing my train of thought. I really don't think that any of these are going to matter. I think, you know, if the Brits retake them, they're going to get the same supply bonus, and they won't really need it, I'm guessing. I don't know. I mean, the rail line is never going to make it. It's never going to make it that far. Anyway, I think that's a turn, to tell you the truth. And we got our big goal of Mersa Matruh, and I'm good with that. A lot of this isn't really moving. I can't fuel things up. I can't afford to shift stuff. I figured grabbing this is of some value. This guy could have a reserve marker. That wouldn't hurt. Rommel cannot. I don't think anything else of any use can, so screw all that. And that'll push us forward, which I think means we may get a couple of turns into it today. I feel like, I mean, first of all, I got up and got moving around 1, which is a little better than usual. But also, I feel a little bit more energy than usual. All right, there was an event. The Brits took a dump here. And that could be really useful in Tobruk, by the way. Like just finding some extra supplies there, or in a siege type situation. And they got initiative. They're going to force the Italians to go first. Nothing else of excitement. By the way, with the Greek campaign roll, the fact that they have this Greek status change roll, kind of feel like the status track and the status change is all goofy. Like it should just say to what status and not worry about this extra track. There's so much busyness on this board, so many little panels and boxes and everything. The more that can be offloaded into there, the better things are, honestly, because you have to check that regularly anyway. Like, I don't know what the status roll is without looking in there. So, and it is always to move you to a specific space that's basically predetermined on here, right? It's not just this general status change. This current status change that I'm getting is to get me to this box, no matter what. It is the execution die roll, right? So it's just kind of a, yeah, you've added more busyness that doesn't, and you know, an extra counter to use and everything. It doesn't actually do anything in the game. That one works fine. That one you need. Likewise, I don't know. This table, I just don't know. I feel like this table needs to exist as is, more or less. It might be useful to have a reminder, but I can't really, except for if it's November, Brits start rolling on the withdrawal and return table. Had I seen that, had that been listed there, yeah, I would have had to go find it then. But instead, it's just out of my mind, you know. Maybe I had seen it before, maybe not, but yep, gone. It's kind of funny, you know, I had a cold a while back, and it persisted. And it's still kind of here. I've got phlegm and everything. I mean, it doesn't impact life at all. It just means I have to blow my nose a couple times a day or something where I normally wouldn't. Like, but I can totally feel that there's something not the same up in my head, you know, where I'm getting a little bit more. No one would say they're sick under these conditions, but I know that I am weller at other times, right? Like, and I can trace this and say it's this slow decline of whatever, you know. And I suspect this happens to everybody and people just don't notice. But it's like, yeah, your body takes a fucking long time to recover from almost any, at least mine does, from almost any illness without it even really being all that noticeable. But there are these tiny, tiny little differences. That's what happens from being just too fucking introspective. Turn to the port roll because of the Mercer Matruo situation. But I've just re-looked at the original rolls. I didn't look here, but again, I know there wasn't anything here. There isn't anything in the original rolls. And there's nothing in my little envelope that changes this. So it's like this decision was made, honestly, after this particular version of the game was more or less retired, I'm guessing. Because DAK 2 came out not long after those stopped coming. It came relatively quickly on the heels of DAK. Like, I think enough people were upset that this, you know, this particular campaign didn't have gray counters for the Germans or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how much was fixed in DAK 2. And maybe they did the port supply rules for that and upgraded them. I wouldn't know, you know, but maybe they made it so zones of control matter there and decided, you know what, you need this. Honestly, I'm absolutely on the fence. Like, I kind of like that this was hard to take. That it had some capability to supply itself. Here's the one thing that I wish that there was port destruction rules so that I could bombard the port and knock it out, just like there are in every other game of the series. The fact that this particular game has these tracks instead, the tracks work okay. They should just take you to I can completely negate the port by bombarding it, and these little guys you should definitely be able to knock out. They shouldn't be infinite supply. I would much rather that solution, which is the more general solution, than this enemy zones of control thing, which I think just doesn't actually work. Now, would I have put artillery to interdict the port capacity? Oh, hell yeah. You know, if that's what it took, it would make sense, and I would do that. But I would also have destroyed the port, if that's what makes sense. And the Axis begins its press forward again. Go capture some more Egyptians to join us. The supplies moving forward as much as I can. Again, I'm using Benghazi as my waypoint at this point. Shipping stuff. Now, one thing I'm not doing is I haven't been shipping anything. I haven't been driving supplies to Tobruk. I'm driving them all the way to Mersa Matruh because that's where I need them for the spearhead of the attack. But we start looking along here, and I've got like these abandoned. Now this one I can move. I can use some of the Benghazi supply or some of this stuff for it. But I've got like abandoned vehicles. First of all, everybody who can is like walking, right? Because I don't want to expend any supplies if I can help it. This stuff I may need to truck up there, assuming, I mean, we'll see. Plenty's getting into Benghazi, but what if I need to start shipping directly to Mersa Matruh, Sidi Barani, get stuff up towards the front? Well, if that's the case, then I can't do the enhanced shipping into Benghazi as easily, and maybe that gets drained, and I start driving to get those instead of all the way to Tripoli. I don't know, because the ride to Tripoli is a long one. I did move, there's a Panzer of some sort here. No, not even, that I activated. Likewise, I'm going to activate, I guess, these tanks and get them moving forward. They're crappy. They're nothing I really want at the front, but at least there's supplies near them that I'm not really using, so fine, I'll use those. But then I've got stuff near Tobruk, like these 5th Legion or whatever. I don't know what the LE stands for, Legion or Leg or whatever. Those guys, I don't think started walking yet. They can start their hike. But yeah, I've got stuff that's going to eat up fuel. And I'm just like, I don't know. Is it worth affording it? Now this guy, if he can trace back to here, and I don't know, he may be too far. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can't quite make it to that dome. I could take from Solom, I think. Yeah, I could take a point from Solom and push that forward. That might be worth it, just to get some of these good units to the front. I don't really care about those Italians that are back there. Uh-oh, I'm out of battery. We're talking about the good German units. Man, I really do need to get those up on the line, right? So... find it kind of amusing, this thought of like, you know, these guys have been there for weeks. Just sort of, we're out of fuel, let's park here for a while. It just doesn't feel like the way to run a war at all. But supplies are just so tight in this game that I don't know what else to do. And, you know, maybe I should have never made the decision to send them forward. But there are reasons to do so. One of which is eating up the fuel from Tripoli to make the run, the initial run is worth it. And then you end up, you know, way out there, because you come out of here with motorized movement, and it's like, yeah, gosh, now I'm somewhere stupid. I kind of wouldn't mind if they just piled up here. Like if I didn't give them the motorized movement, if they had to stop when they got here, if I didn't have additional fuel. And maybe that's the case. Maybe I'm misreading this. But I think as long as they're on this track, they're fully fueled once you pay their fuel from Tripoli. And then if they were fully fueled, they would get the additional movement when they come on the map. So I don't know. It really kind of doesn't matter. It's just like, all right, I cleaned some of them up, letting the guys who are on foot, including the artillery, who are like pushing their trucks or whatever, to make their way forward as best they can. I don't need this shit that's back here, right? This is just tons and tons of artillery coming forward. But maybe I will. I sure the hell don't need it in Tripoli, you know. Anywhere before Tobruk, I probably am fine, and I'll probably just keep getting more. So screw it, or I can build more, or it can walk back if it's needed. But yeah, I mean, it's not like, you know, if I don't have the supplies to move these things, I don't have the supplies to fire them either. So. But yeah, all right, let's get to the British side of this turn. And the British reinforcement, the Western Desert Corps, is supposed to show up back here. Well, obviously it's not going to do that. I'm putting it at El Alamein. I don't want to deny them their existence. I honestly am not sure. I really think what happened here is this is an attempt to force the British collapse, whether or not anything happens. Does it really work? Well, not really, because if you've got a supply dump, like let's say I had a supply dump here, I can still defend a fair perimeter around it. The headquarters really is more important for offensive operations, but it was vital to me holding this line. And that's why I refused to give it up as long as that line was holding. Kind of funny. These two were very, very effective. You know, a 12 hex throw range, decent movement capabilities, and an 8 hex throw range. This thing still has the same movement capabilities, but it has worse throw ranges. Which again, it just restricts the Brits from being able to take offensive operations. They shouldn't be able to anyway. I just find it, I don't know. I don't mind the idea that this is shitty at the beginning, that the Brits are caught unprepared, and that, although I don't know. Yeah, my feeling is that some kind of micromanagement, some people were taking advantage of maybe a greater range or something and doing stuff that was ahistorical because of it. But if you didn't give them that greater range a little later, they wouldn't be able to make the advances that they were. It just feels like they're, you know, reaching in and tweaking the values to make the game work when it wasn't working or something like that. Like the core system doesn't handle what the Desert War was like. And that may make sense. The core system was developed for the East Front. Brits are amassing an absolutely humongous depot, dump, whatever here. I don't know if that's even wise, because that could end up falling conceivably. Let's say I have to fall back to here. This wouldn't be a bad place to build it, although Yeah, so here's the thing. Now that I have a headquarters, I don't need this dump. I can trace and throw. But if I'm going to make a counterattack, I need that dump. And those points could go very quickly while this is being degenerated. So I'm going to keep building it up. But I do have sort of a thought of, maybe I don't want supplies, up at anywhere near the front because they're exposed. I think that's it for the Brits. We're filling in, building up our defensive line better and better as much as we can. Do I want these artillery here? See, they're supporting down to here, but they're not supporting over here at all. But that's okay. I've got planes and stuff. I don't know. Hard to tell. The thing is, though, if I screw up my defense, the whole line collapses. That's one of the things, so like, there was another game that I had recently, I think the Central Front series, where I was looking at that same factor, and I think it's kind of common, is fuck up the defense and everything falls. Fuck up your offense and your offensive falls. It fails, right? Which is, I guess, bad, but it just doesn't feel as terrible as your defense, your bulwark, your line just collapsing under a successful attack. Now, in some cases, you can't. Like, your defense is going to be defeated anyway, but in some cases, it's like, yeah, but if I make one little mistake, I'm screwed. I guess you can say the same thing with the offensive. I always think so much in defensive terms that I'm like, I'd better get that perfect. Whereas with the offensive, I'm like, let's just throw some shit against the wall, see what happens. More or less. Throw more men in. Yeah, I'm okay with what's happening right now. Does it feel like desert warfare yet? Does it feel like, the armored push through the desert? No, it really doesn't. And a lot of that has to do with the limitations on supply, which are historical and make sense. But I feel like the corollary, at least for me, is make the push with the infantry. Which doesn't seem right. Not at all. I mean, obviously, look, if I have huge stocks of supplies, I can launch an effective multi-turn offensive. But what I'm finding is the game eats up supplies so fucking quickly that I can't do a multi-turn offensive with armor and motorized stuff and all that and keep it going for any length of time. Now, people tell me the point behind that is you gotta kind of go around the enemy. You can't just challenge them. Well, okay, but I do not find most of the terrain very conducive to bringing supplies around the enemy. There are very few roads that keep you in trace supply. If you're not going to be in trace supply, now things are going to get uglier. Getting the headquarters into place to be able to launch those kind of outflanks and whatnot. The Brits never have more than one headquarters up till this point. So what are they going to do? And yeah, even those good ones, I found it very difficult to get supplies for any kind of flanking operation. Running out of this battery too. I think we'll probably get at least one more turn in today. It's already like 3. Raid starts at 4, but I'm okay pushing that a little further. So maybe we'll go further. Just so worried because I gotta go shopping tomorrow. Random happens. The Italians win the initiative this time. They push it onto the Brits, of course. Just, we're not in contact. Might as well. All right, we finished this turn, and right? Yeah. Just making sure I'm in the right place. Italians pushing forward, Rommel pushing forward even. And some fancy Italian tanks. Nothing great, not the Ariete division, but, sliding into place for possibilities of trying to get around, but it's not too good. One exciting thing, I moved the DAK up here. That's in range where I can draw from Mursa Matrua. I'm starting to collect up a decent amount of supply there, schlepping my trucks back and forth, but God, what a pain in the ass. If I get down to hey, the trucks are just gonna run from Benghazi to Mursa Matrua, if I get to that point, and that's all I'm doing, I think it'll be okay. Right now, it's a pain in the fucking ass because I've got trucks that are like, I don't know, they're not aligned and everything. If I could just get one big fucking convoy going, I think everything would work okay. And what the hell is that truck there? That's part of the Ariete division. Yeah, I haven't moved that yet. The off-map boxes, stuff, well, not off-map, but the little boxes that are like insets of the map or whatever, just to help you, manage your stuff. They're a great idea. But they're still kind of a pain because it's like, you lose things. You're like, oh, that's just supply there. Yeah, but that supply needs to get moving. And I definitely need the Ariete truck up there. I've been holding off on moving them. Mainly, I don't know why. I don't have a really good argument for that. But yeah, I'm out of supplies everywhere west of Mursa Matrua at this point. Well, until we start hitting hey, I've thrown supplies all over the fucking place to try to get them out of Tripoli in time. I've given up on that task. That's just, it's insanity. I feel like I'm getting a pretty good flow going in through Benghazi. That's okay. And then the trucks can carry it forward. But, I've got headquarters back here. This guy's tracing back to Bardia or whatever. This guy's tracing back to Tobruk. There ain't nothing there. I'm comparing this again to the Desert Fox, where it's like, yeah, if you build your supply net well enough, you can keep your reinforcements and everything coming. There's no problem with moving those forward. It's only right at the edge where you might be needing combat supply and everything that you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to eat something. I'm gonna have to eat a dump, But those dumps are able to feed you, I think, 5 points of supply for that game per turn per dump, which means if you set up some good dumps up at the front, enough to fuel, not just fuel, but to manage the offensives of your forces. You can set things up so that they're sort of perennial, right? Here, I'm doing all this work to try to create the equivalent of what that is, and there's no such thing. There's no such thing. I have to move all the supplies. This is far more intuitive and maybe more believable. But it's also a lot more of a pain. And I find Desert Fox kind of painful maintaining your supply lines as well. I don't think, I'm not sure, but I don't think most of the OCS games are this painful in terms of trying to keep your supply lines running. Again, it's because, there's rail nets and stuff like that. So as long as you've got supplies incoming, and honestly, the Brits have infinite, the Axis might as well have infinite the way it's going in terms of what's coming into Tripoli. They've got no problem filling that up. Then you can just get it to the front, right? You can get it to the front using your rail capacity and whatnot. But here, the Axis has absolutely no rail capacity. The Brits, well, they're fine. I mean, they're absolutely fine now, but they were having difficulty when they were conducting their offensive to have enough material to just make the attacks. Oh, I did move this, I think. Let me just make sure. 12 has to be the withdrawal, yeah. And then we got nothing coming until we get the New Zealand Railroad, I guess. Supposedly. We got equipment special stuff happening. So this is the New Zealand. This is, I think, the Allied. It's hard to tell because the colors are all so similar. This is the German equipment. This is the Allied equipment, I think. Right? 26th of April, yeah. Where we're going to start getting, points and be able to start rebuilding our forces. So far, we've got no capability. So, like, all these things that go into the dead box and whatever, or, oh, look, I can exchange for this not so good unit, but whatever. I can make these unit exchanges and everything. None of them matter yet until that starts coming in, because I do not have any capacity to rebuild any of the units. The Italians have theoretically had some, but very, very few points have come in all game. All right, we're going to break for a while because I feel a little exhausted at this point. I got through like 3 turns, and I don't know, less than 3 hours, but whatever. What's funny is it's like 3 hours where nothing happened. Yeah, Mersa Matruh fell. That was one tiny little attack. Most of what I'm doing is just moving trucks back and forth. I'm beginning to see the complaint on the OCS as to being a little bit... If this is the only game you play, definitely. I remember Burma feeling a lot more comfortable to me, but maybe it's because there were elephants hauling supply or whatever. But here I'm just running the supply so fucking far and moving trucks back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And everybody's hand hauling their guns and everything down the road because, hey, no gas, man, no gas. I feel like the kinds of choices that you're given in this game, I don't know if they're generating realistic results. And I don't mean, where I take my offensive or whatever. I'm okay with, hey, I fucked that shit up and didn't get it. But just this, oh look, everybody's walking. Everybody's walking. Nobody wants to use trucks. But if you gave somebody a lot more supply, they'd still do the same fucking thing. And they'd just have more available for their offensives. Because the truth of the matter is, the stuff that's walking, I don't really need for the most part. Yeah, sure. I could use these infantry from the 15th Panzer. Those would be nice to have up there. And if I need them, I'll spend a few supply points to get them there, I guess. One of the problems is I move all my forces first, and then I move my supplies. And so there's never supplies nearby. Now there's supplies here. But again, I don't want to use that unless I have at least 4 units of the 15th Panzer that I'm moving at once. I got to move that Ariete truck. Discussion going on BGG. How much value unit designations give. And it's kind of a weird feeling for me because it's like, yeah, I kind of want them. Like, I'm happy to know that this is the 2-5 of the 5th LE because I don't even know what that means. That, in a sense, even though I don't know a damn thing about individual units and everything, I kind of want them identified. I don't know why. It's just sort of this, like, unless that aspect is getting in the way. But if you're going to have individual units with individual ratings and everything like that, yeah, I kind of do want to know what their name is. Every now and then it'll be important. Every now and then a unit will impress me and maybe have a couple of good rolls come in on it or whatever. But for the most part for this game, the only thing that's important is, does it have like a divisional superior or whatever, especially given that like you have withdrawals and all that are kind of generic, at least from the withdrawal table, if I ever manage to use that successfully. But yeah, it is kind of an interesting question, because it's like, it's this thing that I don't feel actually does anything in particular for the game, but I also feel like I would be missing something if it wasn't there. Like, now, games that use absolutely generic forces, that's a different decision. I'm okay with that. Take something like, I don't know, a strength point type game like Empires in Arms or something along those lines. I'm perfectly fine not knowing what all the component units are. And in fact, I feel like the concept of using all these component units in like the Zucker Napoleonic operational games, when they're just on a strength point track, it feels a little bit like, yeah, you've made it so that there have to be more counters than maybe there should have had to be. Maybe there could have been a better way of handling things, but maybe it just doesn't matter. If you're going to limit the size of divisions or whatever, once you make that decision to break core and to have counters for divisions that live on the core tracks or on the commander tracks, then you kind of have already, might as well have the unit designation on those things and indicate how big they can be and start making differentiations on them. But yeah, it's a weird feeling, because to me they don't add anything to the game, right? And they don't really do much for me, because I don't know the individual histories of all the regimental and battalions that are present here, okay? And I doubt very many of us do. I doubt very many of us do, but something would be missing if it wasn't there. Let's try to squeeze another one in. It's almost raid time, but I'm hungry, so I started making some biscotti and whatever. Nothing too exciting. Brit's got initiative. They're making the Italians go first. Or the Axis go first. I'm not sure how I feel about this, but it's like, I don't think that there's anything that I can really do that'll change, that'll improve my situation this turn. I don't have reinforcements coming. It's just nothing. So, yeah, go ahead. The Axis moves forward for another one of these World War I style assaults, and British artillery, which did not have a reserve marker but probably should have. If I'm going to do this, this guy could not have had one, but those guys did, or could have. Ends up disordering Rommel's force. Now, I may still make the attack. I'm not sure. I'm facing a general here. I may want to just hold off, because again, the attack expends a lot of resources. So let me wait, see if I can get away with an overrun or something. At least I'll have hip shoots on my next round. I didn't have enough movement without expending, again, fuel that I wanted to maintain, throwing, foot units into mobile mode where they wouldn't be as powerful and whatnot. I just don't have the feel for it, man. I don't have the feel for, like, using this system to do armored warfare and mobile warfare for whatever reason you want to look at it. But you know, I have the Ariete division, I think, here. No, just a bunch of tanks. Where is Ariete? Back here somewhere? I don't know where the fuck it is. Oh, it's way back here. I got their truck up here. I don't know why. The idea was, look, I can use these as a reserve to push forward if I get successful. But, you know, the Brits didn't have a lot of artillery, so there was a chance of this working. I got to be careful. I actually had to fly a plane up here to defend against these. Now, I could have done a fighter sweep or something, but that doesn't help me. Well, it would help on this. Basically, the reaction phase, the barrage segment could have done that. But I felt like protecting with a fighter was wiser. All right, let me look at the Italians, think if they want to make the assault. And I'll pass on it again. I just don't feel like I have enough resources up here. I'm delivering everything I can. You can see Benghazi's getting reduced. I don't know where all my supplies going to. Keep thinking I'm shipping it to Mersa Matruh. I don't know, a lot of it might be on board trucks. And we're gonna put that to the second player turn. I probably have to eat my food and then I'll come back and do the Brits. So I'm all fed up now and I'll do the Brits. Honestly, there's nothing too exciting there. Just shifting supplies, you know, plane is available again. I moved my bombers back there. It's not going to help them. They're still potentially strikeable by the Italian Air Force, but I don't know what else to do. You know, I don't want to put them someplace. I mean, it wouldn't hurt to throw them back here, say, and ship supplies. Actually, it doesn't even make sense for me to move them. The reason it doesn't make sense to move them is they're not fighters. If I move them, they become inactive, and I will not be able to use them in the next turn unless I go first, and I don't necessarily want to do that. So yeah, we'll see if the line holds, man. That's what it comes down to. And again, you know, sure, the Italians could knock these out, but as long as they got a fighter up here within range, they can knock them out if they come in and try to intervene. I do need to build myself a better air base at some point for the Italians or for the Axis in general. I don't know if it wants to be there. I might want to build it there or something in order to, you know, just in case, because here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it only gets me a little past Al Alamein. Of course, if I take Al Alamein, there's a base there, isn't there? No. Well, there is, sort of. The Brits could destroy that, though, if they're pushed that far. All right, that is probably it for the day, because it's raid time, and unless I get really, really excited, I don't generally want to play at night. You know, the lighting is so bad down here. The problem is I really rely on these couple of stand-up lights. That thing back there barely, you know, I can see the board. I can avoid like making a mess when I walk by it or something. But what happens if we? I don't know what's going on. So this table has been really kind of problematic because it like just does not want to sit where I put it, and but I'm not having too much trouble. You know, every now and then these slide a little bit. This guy's been the biggest problem. Here it is, Monday night. It's funny. I mean, I kind of wanted to do this. I'm going to. But I convinced myself, no, fuck it. It's nighttime. Go down and try Gloomhaven again. And, you know, I just can't fucking figure out where the hell I am in it. You know? It's like, yeah, if I had gotten back to it within a couple of weeks of when I put it, but it's been quite a few years. Like, I think it was open like that for like 2 years while my wife was still alive. It's been 3 years since then. So, you know, all right, so, shit. I don't know if I can do this though. It's because things are getting complex enough that I just don't know. I want to move some pieces around and do something. And not just sit in front of the computer. I mean, I'm done with RAID already. It's like 11 something, you know. It takes me 6 hours or whatever to play my day's RAID as long as nothing big's going on in it. So no weather. I got an event that basically doesn't impact me. Trying to remember what it was. 53. Rommel was graced with an amazing effective signal intercept unit. No allied divisional markers are allowed in play to hide units off map until this effect is revoked. I basically do not use my divisional markers that way. They would confuse me. There's no place to put the divisions. Yeah, I could kind of push them, you know, above or whatever, but I find the whole divisional markers thing kind of not useful. Now, wait a minute. There's something here. That's not it. I was thinking, oh, there's something that you can put counters in. There's something for like air bases or something. I don't know what the hell that's for. But yeah, I leave my counters on the map, so no biggie there. Italian Axis got initiative, and I think they're going to force the Brits to go first. Even though we're in contact, there's not really much. I do have planes to protect me in case, well, one plane, in case anything goes terribly bad. So let them go. The English get done shuttling their supply points around, and that's really all that they're doing. I'm a little upset I don't have any units to put back here. I have so few units total on the board. I just can't afford. Now comes the interesting thing. Now, the best thing I can use is Rommel's, what is this, the 5th Legion. Some of it's back here, whatever. If I put it in movement mode, it'll work. It'll give me some additional strength points. I think it'll get within range. I don't remember, what is it, 16? He's only moved 2 though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So the best I can do if I want to use those is probably hit that step. But I could divert the rest of other units of Rommel's force forward to here, do a hip shoot, and attack in. Or maybe even swing around down here. This looks kind of potent. This looks kind of far away. Sure, I can get around, but I'm almost feeling like I want to just batter right through the front line. Get the main highway. None of this matters then. That's just extra units that spread out. You know, sure, if they weren't there, I could go around them and cut off the supplies. Conceivably, I could use this Italian armor in mobile form. There's some down here, which has 12 movement points. To come down this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and take that fort. I could just send 1 unit into there, but he'd be out of supply, you know? I would have to really work to get him supplies down there. Now, maybe I want to hit this. I can see there's at least a 4-point unit there. I don't have a 4-point, I have a 3-point. You probably don't want to overrun it, and all kind of stuff like that. I might want to batter through though. 3 attempts at hip shots at this, all of them failed. One of them caused a loss of planes. I'm out of German planes. I did knock out the BF 110 or 109. It's a 109, isn't it? Yeah. Took out the British. Where the hell that is? It's a Hurricane. Okay. But that means I no longer have the advantage I wanted. I don't know. I don't think I can bust my way through with just an overrun against either of these 2 stacks. Kind of not happy about it. That didn't work well. The Brits had an equivalent quality to mine. We both threw in leaders. I'll check leader loss in a moment, but Takaloo's one option, one to defender option 1. I can gladly take the option to try to blow away, there's one decent British unit there, an Indian unit, because everything else is green. The one other unit is green. Well, no, the 2 other, I think. Anyway, so yeah, but I'm going to lose one of my good guys. Guess I'll take somebody who didn't have a lot of movement. I probably would have put him in because he came from back there. But yeah, we didn't succeed. Now, I don't know how much I know about what I did to the enemy. I know I did a step to him. I don't know if I know the unit that got destroyed over there, the fact that that's 3 strength points. I certainly don't know what else is in the stack, like other than that lead unit that got whacked. I took the extra hit on my Italians. So I'm going to stop there. Leader loss checks for Rommel. He's fine. And for Jock, he too is fine. But yeah, I can't launch another attack. All I have that would work is this unit. Everything else, these guys all went in as infantry. This guy was at the end of his movement allowance. There's some interesting issues now. These come down to timing. I might make a die roll on this. I've gotten through my air barrage segment. I have 1 plane available. I can't pull the Fliegen Corps in. I only have this one 2-point Italian plane left. All my Germans have been used on the hip shoots. That's not enough to do anything with, clearly. So now it goes to the Brits, and here's what they see. They see an artillery in range, but there might be more hiding under there. So I think they have to fire back. And that's okay. It doesn't really hurt them. They've got tons of supplies to throw into their ammo pools. I actually probably need to hit both these hexes. So, and I dare not use my planes because there's an Italian fighter waiting for me there. So yeah, I think I have to use my artillery. The part that was going to be, hey, do I need to do a die roll or whatever is, look, I know there's no artillery under either of these, but a clever player would hide some, right? And I'm also worried about this possibility here. There might be artillery here. I know there's an armored unit there, and that's kind of a, yeah, I gotta allocate my artillery blind because I do not know what the enemy has, either right against me nor kind of further back. But yeah, my thinking was, well, look, if I know he doesn't have much artillery, do I guess that he's not going to use this? It's risky anyway. If the Brits don't end up getting things covered, this can fire at that, and that might be a worthwhile shot. Split up for 5-point fires on each. This one ended up being a huge stack, actually. 8.5 regimental equivalent in it. But I got disorders on all of them. That means there's no Italian attack, which is probably for the best, because I don't have a whole lot of supply available to me. Again, the Brits don't know my supply situation either. I know the Brits are in supply where they are, but the Brits don't know mine. And I'm going to mark these reserve markers. I'm going to pull them off like that, just to indicate they've been expended, because it's possible there could be a turn flip. Actually, let's just take them off, because I might get confused where they are. And the disorders come off as well, and that is the end of the turn. And it's too much of a pain in the ass to play at night. It really is. Well, fate says I must play. My internet went down, something that's been remarkably common since they did some upgrade to the cell phone service in the area. Like, that was connected, that shut my internet down for, a couple of days, just like on and off, on and off. And things had been pretty solid, and now this year it's like regularly going down. I went and gave Gloomhaven yet another shot. I'm just like, I don't understand what the fuck I'm doing. I don't know how to play anymore. So I kind of want to dive in and do a scenario, but I can't figure out where I am in the campaign either. So it's like, wow, yeah, that's impossible. So anyway, no events, no weather. The Italians get the initiative, and they're going to force the Brits to go first. There's no real harm to it. I got fighter cover in a couple of places. Interesting. I really ought to build an air base, but I need to get a combat unit in place to do that. Actually, there's some potential advantage to the Axis going first, which is that this artillery wouldn't be available. That would prevent me from being disordered. That might actually be worth it. On the other hand, I can keep shipping materials. Like, it's not like I have enough, right, to launch my attack. Although it came at a cost, we got the opportunity we want. My first hip shoot killed a plane. My second one was successful and got my disordered result. And that means I have a little bit more resources to commit to even the regular attacks if I want to do that. And I'm going to activate stuff and try to do an overrun of Jock there. I hope it works. I have the fuel here, or ammo, but I'm going to need fuel because there's armored units. Of course, I may not need that unit, the 5th LE, may not need a full strength point of fuel, a full supply point of fuel, in which case I'll save it for ammo, I guess, because I think it will need that. There's not quite enough left for it to need that either, but I need to free the truck up, send it back, and get more supplies, and drive them all the way back up. I mean, whatever I have here is usable by everybody. Whatever's in this truck is fucking useless, except for that unit. And so wasting a token of supply is just fine for that, because I can't afford to eat up the stuff at Mersa Matruh. Got surprised, I didn't get much better of a result. I got an A01 DL101, but that may be enough. These are actually one less. That'll actually drop it down to here. A01 DL101. Yeah, it's a very smooth combat chart where like die rolls and shifts all have minimal impacts each. Yeah, it was one more because I forgot these guys are. Oh no, that's 6th Australian. Or no, 7th Australian. Yeah, so it's my choice between 6th and 7th Australian. I'll probably take it on the armor because, well, see, armor's harder to replace though, so fuck that. But yeah, he's going to have to take 2 losses. So if he wants to hold that location, and I think he wants to, I probably fucked up by not moving some some more units in, but I'm just running out of stuff. I spent, I think it's 3 movement points to march into here. All the infantry is done. I could still launch an attack with this against his remaining movement points. Campbell's dead. Rommel is not. On the other hand, there aren't reserves on his actual troops, just on his artillery, so maybe I can get away, maybe I can get lucky, I don't know. It's worth hitting, because I only have to spend 1 token to make this attack. So yeah, let's go for it. So what do I have? I have a much better quality now. So now I'm 5. This is a 6th Australian over there. Yeah, that's normal. So he's a 3, down 1, up 1. I'm at +2 on the overrun. And I get a 6, which means the defender gets surprised. Well, that's not good. Okay, so 5 to 3 is going to be 2 to 1 in the open, minus 2 columns, puts me down to the 1 to 2, but I am at +2 with only a 7. Attacker lose 1, option 1. Well, I don't have an option, so I lose this. Since I didn't take, I essentially take my option, the Brits don't have to lose anything. The thing is, Rommel's tanks, ooh, actually, fuck, this is actually 1 lower, I'm rating it at a 5. Unlike, you know, all the British units that they swap in and out. Now, all the German units are at -1. Just a simple, they're at -1. So I fucked that up. It's cool that they didn't win. It's cool that attacking doesn't work. And, well, we still got five tokens of supply left up there if we want to do anything else this turn. We'll have more, I mean, not much, but like a couple of full supply points, I'm guessing. I wasn't able to pull as much into Mersa Matruh as I thought. It looks like I was. That's because I had a full point sitting on a truck, which instead of a point that I used for the combat, I could drain out of the truck or for fueling or whatever. So no problem with that. But, and that allowed me to move the truck a little faster because there were people siphoning gas out of it at the time. Tons here in Tripoli, fucking huge tons that I just have no way of moving. That are going to rot. Benghazi is looking a little weak, and you know, I've got everything moving as much as it can. I think I've got supplies there. These, I don't know what the fuck's up with them. Like, they moved, I'm pretty sure. But who knows? You know, when you're spending so much time trying to shuttle material back and forth, like 90% of your effort in the game, to be honest. I don't know about that. But a fair percentage. Yeah, I'm beginning to think that DAK is not a good choice for this game. Like, the OCS is not a good choice for this particular campaign. I don't remember this kind of problem with Africa. The problem I had with Africa has, like, you do have to shift supplies around in that. There's no question of that, and they are troublesome. But I don't remember them being this much of a pain. And the problem I had with Africa was that I don't believe the Axis can succeed. Like, I don't think they can take Alexandria, and more or less anything else is a failure. It's just a question of how badly do you fail, right? Oh. Oozing headquarters, Italian headquarters, getting into there. That's within range of Benghazi, so that I can throw supply if anybody gets stuck out there that I want to drive. But you know, it's like I'm leaving motorized stuff lying all over the place because it's like, yeah, it just whatever, just park there. You're fine. God. Okay. But now I gotta make my decisions on attacks, and this is a pretty easy attack, to be honest. The Brits concentrated their fire up here, and normally I wouldn't launch an attack when disordered, because there's lots of disadvantages, even against a disordered enemy. But you know, given that I did the overrun, whatever, I'm willing to go in again. I don't know if I'm going to risk Rommel on this. It seems like it's the ball game here, so maybe. Because if I can punch through here, get an exploit, and, you know, race to El Alamein, these guys are all fucked. Now, I don't know that there's, yes, I do know that there's nothing there, because you can always ask, is there a combat unit there? Or show me the top combat unit, and there ain't one. So, yeah, I know that's undefended. It's one of the weird things about the game. It's like, you know, there's these attempts there was the Godzilla rule at one point, they got rid of that. But and I don't know what's replaced it, but there's sort of these, yeah, you can go on these long-range raiding missions, and you absolutely know that you're not going to face anything if the defender is stupid enough not to have anything. Now, normally, earlier in the game, I had lots of armored cars and stuff covering all my supply back ends. They were more accessible. Like here I have to bust through the line. It was really a mistake not to move some of these units here. I think this campaign is coming to a close, to tell you the truth. Surprise, but we got over on the 7-to-1 table, and not a very high cost in supplies, because there just wasn't anything left of the Brits, which is why I attacked. And we got not quite the result we want. We got an AO1. That meant I lost the last one of them 5th Legion units there. Oh, we got to check Rommel too. He can die. He does not. We take the Hex, but the Brits have a chance to withdraw now, which probably is pretty safe. And this one fired. This one I kind of cheated with, but it fired as well. Oops. Okay. I fired all 15 points, 10 and 5. I could not do that. This guy is too far away. He can only cover that. Oops. Oh well. Brits have enough problems as it stands. And what does that mean? I think the disorders come off when we're done. Yeah, because the Brits went first. Okay. Internet's still busted. I don't keep playing. It's been out for over an hour. Fucking Verizon's subsidiary or whatever that they've been really good until about 4 months ago or so. And then they did some work on the street, and there's just been nothing but fucking problems since they upgraded their cell phone dealings. Yeah, it was something for the cell phones, and it's just fucked everything up. And it was really weird because it was showing me as like I was getting warnings that I was logging in from weird places when they were having trouble and working on it and everything. Like they're like switching me over to Milwaukee or something like that. It's just like, what the fuck, man? Problems is I actually have shit I have to do, like for raid. In about an hour, I guess, somewhere in that range. And if this doesn't clear up, you know, it's like I'm staying awake to do this shit that I have to do, and you know, my time's running out on it. You know, sure, it's only a game, whatever, but that's all my life is anymore, right? Here it is, Tuesday morning. My internet came back up. I'll talk about that in a bit. Of course, because I babble about everything that is happening. But, yeah, well, I didn't find out till 6 hours later. Now, I've gotten maybe 3-4 hours of sleep in that 6 hours because I've been getting up, checking the internet, you know, stuff like that, just because that's the way I am. There are a couple of good things about it. which, well, actually, I won't get to it later because I just got to it. One of which is I woke up with a particular, actually I went to bed with a craving for a particular food, and I woke up with dreams of different food, but ended up making the thing I was craving, which is good. It was just a toasted tuna fish salad sandwich. I had to make the salad and everything, but whatever, not a big deal. The kind of thing that I generally don't make until I'm out of food, just because a ham and cheese sandwich is easier, or a hot dog or whatever. And also I started reading a really cool book, which is sort of like this collaborative mystery, whodunit type thing. Anyway, but another thing that happened was I had a lot of thinking about DAK while I wasn't, having a video run while I'm trying to fall asleep. Now, of course, that meant that I had trouble sleeping, but it also brought a lot of thoughts to mind. Now, I wanted to get up and record them at the time because I'm so afraid I'm going to lose them. Let's see if we can get everything here. First things first, this next turn coming up. This could be a big deal. Even though I didn't get the exploitation result that, I would have gotten had any of those German units been left. If there's a turn flip, I can overrun this artillery, I can run back to here, and I can collapse the entire double line. Because there are no units, right? It could swing back down to here and cut off the entire British Army. And that would be, they can ooze their way out or something, but they'd be in a hell of a lot of hurt if that falls. I am guessing if this line falls, Alexandria is next. There are no auto victories except for Mursa Matrua during the Italian advance. There is no victory in the game, actually, other than that, as far as I can tell. So I can keep playing for whatever it is worth. See if I can take, Cairo is not really important, but Suez and Port Said are important. And, oh cool, there's an expectation that the Axis could be able to capture both Alexandria and Port Said. Suez doesn't come with anything, any bonus. But yeah, that would be Rommel's plans. Well, I'm still not sure Rommel would have gotten called in this case. But anyway, he showed up. But the other thing, and I think there might have been a third thing, but I'm not sure what it was. But the other thing I'm thinking about is that the massive Italian forces that were left over are the real reason this is happening. You can see the German units, they go in there, and I'm not getting great rolls, and they're dying. That 15th Legion is gone. I don't know what it's supposed to actually be. Somewhere or another, I know that there's a listing of everything. It's between the reinforcements. Between the scenario and the reinforcements. Yeah, here we go. So let's see what that is. Light division. Okay. Well, I'm going to call them Legion because they have an E in their designation. Probably, I don't know my German for what division might be. That might be what the E is for. But anyway. All right. So anyway, they're pretty much wiped out. I might have something kicking around somewhere from them still, but I've got the 15th Panzer ready to come in and replace them. Somewhat more expensive though. Well, I don't know. It's got a couple of infantry, motorized infantry that I can operate on foot. Where I have, you know, my tiny little bit of supply. Of course, if I capture this, then I've got as much supply as I need for quite a long time. But my tiny little bit of supply is rather disturbing, let's just put it that way. But anyway, yeah, it feels to me, you know, I've had some people say things like, well, you know, if Tobruk doesn't fall, that should make it easy for the Axis. Yeah, but I think much, much more important is the amount of Italians that are left alive. Now, I don't know if I've fucked up, right? If that Compass operation should pretty much destroy the Italian army that made its way into Egypt, and especially past the Mussolini line, by just swinging up and you know, taking Bardia and Solomon. I wasn't able to do it. I simply wasn't. And honestly, you can make your arguments about, hey, you didn't have enough supply. But I don't feel like that's what did it. I feel like a combination of some really bad luck and my ways of doing stuff. But, you know, I couldn't bypass this very easily. Not in staying supply, and there was enough staying power up here. I wasn't going to cut the line here. I wasn't going to be able to slice through here and hold a position there and starve out all those Italians. There was just nothing that was going to happen. And there were some troops left in Tobruk that could have come out and fucked with the 7th Armored. And then in trying to knock this out, the 7th Armored got itself pretty badly beaten up. And again, I've gone into, I don't think an overrun would have helped me in those circumstances because I had surprise against me. You know, that's part of the problem. So, you know, I'm not saying that I played well, but when I look back at what happened, I'm not really sure I see an alternative. Now, that may be me just being dense. Just like here, I'm not sure I see an alternative to taking the line on. Yeah, I could go around, but I can't get supplies around there. And I can't just cut off the Brits. But now I've got an opening. All right, let's see what happens this turn. And then I probably go to bed and hope I wake up in time because, you know, right now it's cold and kind of drizzly and everything. There's a couple of trucks outside. I don't think they have a fucking thing to do with the internet situation. But again, the internet came back. Oh yeah, that's another thing with the internet coming back. Whatever they did, Facebook is like, well, you need to log in again. Like, you need to put your password in. Well, I don't remember my password. So I suspect that they're again patching me through some other location and I look like I'm coming in through Milwaukee or something like that, like I did before, and it's caused that problem. But, and whatever the fuck they've done these past few months, it's just horrible. But the whole internet's become less stable and it's doing weird shit where I'm like, yeah, you're logged in from the wrong location. We'll make sure. But anyway, I try resetting my password on Facebook and I've got, you know, I get my code sent to me. I put it in and it just keeps coming up with an error, not from the code, but when I actually try to change the password. And I've even like tried one that like very clearly I've never used before or anything like that. I don't know what the hell it's doing. It's not giving me any instructions as to why that's the case. So like, not only did I have this added hassle, but now Facebook, which is kind of one of my addictions. I mean, it's one of the things that I check regularly while I'm just watching videos and playing Raid and whatever. Anyway, let's get this turn started. Deep into the events. So like, if you roll, I don't know, high enough, in this case, we got three different, or multiple different types of events. You have to get through common, less common. I got into the rares. Unfortunately, I got, that's not the roll. I got a roll in this range. Offer of U.S. assistance, May 42 or after, 2nd Armored Division. This doesn't, it does say historical, is the unit that would be coming in. Anyway, the U.S. isn't even in the war, so that's not going to happen. And then beyond that, there's like the ultra rare events, which I suspect is, there are historicals in there. Anyway, it's just kind of interesting that that's there. And there were no weather, no events. Even the Brits get the get the initiative. They're going to try to save their bacon. I remember the other thing. First of all, there was an Egyptian artillery buried under here, which might have been enough to do the points that I had. But the other thing is, I forgot all the British brigades have an artillery component in them. So I actually had a little bit more firepower. Maybe not enough, but yeah, because the range isn't very high. But if it's 2, I could fire from here into there. So anyway, I probably did have enough artillery to be able to do the shots that I fired off even without this guy. All right, and the Brits pull back. I honestly don't think they're going to be able to hold this line either. Oh, I don't know what the hell to do with their trucks. Like, I don't want to pull more stuff up here. El Alamein, I'm actually draining stuff from. But I do want to create a dump because, I don't know. It really doesn't make much difference. Because no matter what, if I have to pick shit up here, this thing has no defensive capability whatsoever. If I do have to pick up stuff there, then let's head these down. I don't remember if this was flipped or not. Picked it up and couldn't tell. If I do leave materials in Alexandria, here's the one thing. It's possible that this could get cut off by like Suez falling or something, but that doesn't seem likely, right? So other than that, there's always going to be infinite supply in Alexandria at this point in the game, which means that, yeah, I could pull some of that infinite supply out and put it where it's a risk. I think it's worthwhile because of this location here. But again, I don't think this can hold. I would rather have been like here or something along that line. I just feel like this is too vulnerable and we're giving up something that's too close to the coastal road, but I don't have time to develop. You know, I assumed I was going to get more units or something, you know. I just don't have time to develop the defenses back here, and I knew I had to throw everybody into that front line to hold it, and yeah, they didn't manage to. Now, if I had equalized my line a little better, might have happened. Oh, fuck. Conf group had no more German units in it. I think that gets it destroyed. Pushing the Italians forward. I haven't completed my Italian movement. I'm just, yeah, we're getting contact again. These guys are mainly in mobile form. We might be able to just bust through them. Send Rommel in with a bunch of Italians. I can do that. I can't send the Conf group in. This was the first turn the Brits rolled. I don't think I mentioned this on their variable reinforcements table, and they got nothing. The Italians got nothing to do. I think they've gotten 2 successes. And once it was just a single manpower, the other time I think there was an equipment involved, wasn't there? I don't know. All right, so I guess the biggest thing is the trucking that's going on. Both oh, this didn't move. The 15th Panzer and the Ariete both fueled up their units, the Ariete en route, and then heading back to Benghazi. Now, both of them are loaded up, and I'm getting a fair amount of materials into Benghazi this turn, honestly, but not as many as I would like because, well, because I can't. No, the reason that more is showing up this turn, although it's going to be 1 lower, actually, 1.5 of this got shipped in, which means it can't be 1 lower, which means that I think there's like 2 tokens somewhere that I have to find. These 2 tokens that went to Tobruk, they've got to go somewhere else so that I can send. Well, actually, I don't care about the fifth lights. We'll call them lights now. I like 5th Legion because there's nothing left. they're just gone. So I have not seen any units of theirs left. I think they all need to be rebuilt. So I'll just put this up here. At some point or another, I'll fill that truck up and move it, but it's more important for me to shift supplies that I can actually use into the game. And you'll see. 15th Panzer, Ariete is running around this way. 15th Panzer shoved forward. They used their fuel trucks for that. That means they're not really that effective right now because they don't have the supplies available anymore. But this is within supply of the DAK. It's putting a threat on the Brits back this way. And, I mean, this can just outflank the entire line. How far is the question? Almost to Alexandria. So I can do quite a bit of damage, and I can use the Ariete and the 15th Panzer if I can fuel them up to further degrade that line. So I don't think the Brits can actually hold their position. Meanwhile, though, we are going to start conducting more violent operations to try to take this space, because if we can just blow through it, what the hell? And that'll, none of that's going to be hip shot. That's all infantry that had to walk up all the way up there. Who's this? This is some stuff that I can't really afford to move. But having it in reserve means that it can be a little bit more efficient. I'm going to throw this, this conf group up here instead to give me a little bit more flexibility, because those guys are in reserve anyway. If I want them, I can just fuel them up and use them, assuming I have the fuel. Things got confusing because I found my British truck. I'm like, oh, what's up with you, dude? I have these piled up here. They're not doing me anything. I did dump a little bit more supply in here, but I'm moving supplies down to Cairo, and I'll probably start using the rail net for that as well, simply because the supplies here do me so little. Anyway, the Italians, the Germans managed to knock out the fighter, and then a successful disorder, although I lost an Italian, the last Italian bomber that way. So maybe we want to bring the Fliegen Corps in, because quite honestly, shipping into Tripoli isn't doing me a hell of a lot of good with those numbers gathering up there. At some point or another, I'm going to have to send trucks back up there to haul shit and drop it wherever the hell it goes, Benghazi if possible. But it really doesn't matter. It can be anywhere on the board. If you have it in Tripoli, somebody's selling it. If you move it and leave it in caches all over eastern Libya, no problem. Nobody will touch it. Except the Brits. All right. That's going to put me on. We're in supply coming back up here. This thing still fueled for the rest of the turn. Actually, is it that? Yeah, which is actually interesting because I could get a die roll effect and be able to move him even further because he is still fueled. And so after supply, we hit the reaction where I guess I just spent my points for but did not yet roll my bombardments. That's where I am. I got confused because I found the British truck. And the Italians had what I would consider a successful attritional attack. They managed to lose one piece, this machine gunner, and cause 2 hits on the British brigades there. And the Brits could have just taken 1 hit and retreated, give up another line. Maybe they have to anyway. Maybe that's not a bad idea. Just got this hope, like I got more units coming in, but what can I do about this? Yeah, I think I'm actually going to just take 1 unit and fall back because I can't hold this. I got to keep falling. Fall back to those poles or something. I can't afford to give the Axis all that supply. I got to be able to blow that shit up. I haven't done that yet. I'm going to rip up the airport, that's for sure. But yeah, I can't afford to give them the hex, which means these guys are going to probably fall back and give up this space. I have more units coming in, but they're not they're not going to be fast enough. They're going to ship in. They're not going to be allowed to immediately move into place. One's an artillery, and the other, I think, is an artillery replacement or something. So I'm not getting anything that helps. I need ground troops, and I don't have any. Sending all those troops to Greece, Churchill. Thanks. That really helped. Apparently my internet outage was not as local as I assumed. It hit other areas of the town as well. I know 2 other people who were affected. I guess the whole region got nuked. And the disruption and whatnot that all caused is making it so I'm not really wanting to go back to sleep and whatever. I didn't have a lot of raid to play or anything. I started watching videos and whatnot, and I'm back here. So we'll play the last turn of the month and load this up and hope that the internet doesn't die again. This time the Italians got the initiative, or the Axis got the initiative, and they're going to actually grab it because we're in a position to take advantage of that double turn, both attacking through here, possibly sweeping up this way, whatnot. The only problem is we have no fucking resources, but if we take this, we have a ton, and we'll be able to do overrun attacks to try to break through. Well, not sure why I thought that was such a great idea. It ended up an attritional result, attacker option 1, defender option 1. The Brits lost their one decent unit, or their best unit, which with Rommel thrown in was giving them even. Okay, the Italians lost another machine gun, but I gotta get more supplies up there if I want to make another attack. This stack is done. Now, notice something. Rommel died. Just gone. He's done. Now I have DAK leader, which I have to look that up. I don't know if I can continually replace DAK leader. Let me see the Rommel piece. There it is. Yeah, see, he's got a little, yeah, he's got the same thing, a tree. So I'm assuming that's a leader and can throw in his bonus. But let's take a look at the DAK replacement rules. If DAK leader is killed, captured, or otherwise there's no replacement, yeah. So I've got now a one-time leader who doesn't have the bonus, and Rommel gives me a lot of potential advantages in the game. He's no longer here, which means there are problems where he gets called out or gets sick or something like that. But those are basically taking his advantages away. Those are all gone now. This is really the Italian show, man. I wish one of their leaders had survived. Anyway, that overrun is done. I can try to make another one here and bash through, but I'm in really bad shape in terms of supplies and whatnot. Like these guys, yeah, the Ariete division, if I can get the truck up there, which I think I might be able to because they have such high movement, I can fuel these guys up and make that charge back there. If I can't get the truck up there, I have to rely on getting supplies from here, and there aren't that many. Because I need to worry about supplies now to deal with other things, I'm going to rotate this stack just to indicate it's done all its movement. It was just an infantry unit. That's the most it can do is charge into that hex once. I was able to get the truck into range to refuel, which means I think the entirety of the division, because they're going to be running it through there, is able to push forward. And the first unit is this guy. He's spent 5 movement points. He's going to move into an airbase. And that means I have to find something, which is the airbase capture table. The air unit is inactive. 2 dice. Let's not do 1. All right, I got 5 movement points. We cause a step loss to the Brits, and they get to displace up to twice their range to another location, but it doesn't really matter. Now I've got to try to figure out what the Ariete division can do to like fuck with the British supply completely. Actually, this is sufficient. Cutting this, I cut the road. There's no trace supply on the road. Well, they could come around. Hold on, 1. Well, I've got another unit here, so they can't get trace supply from the major road, no matter what, unless they can get back here, which they can't. But this prevents this guy. First of all, he can't trace into here, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He can only trace to there for pulling further trace supply or any other kind of supply and throwing it, which means the Brits are going to have to undergo the breakout rules. Now, I've moved these guys here. I'm going to look at the breakout rules and make sure that's what I want to do. But now I've captured not just the little air base, but a couple of supply points. I'm threatening the entire Commonwealth position there. There's a whole shitload of supply. I don't know. I gotta look up rules on destroying supply and all kind of cool shit. I mean, this is what you can do if you can outflank someone, and why I had to give up the earlier position, and why I should have given up this position as well, although where the hell do I go, you know? I mean, eventually close enough to Alexandria, I could just try to defend that entire zone, but I would still get battered away. I think the situation's hopeless for the Commonwealth at this point. But this is also the first time I felt completely capable of doing an outflank. I had, gassed up units that are reasonable and able to like project themselves there. I'm not sure these guys are still going to be in supply for what it's worth. In fact, I'm sure they're not. Actually, they are. How about that? But I may need to protect this line. And we'll see, some of those tanks may fall back to protect and garrison that road. Conceptually, I have supplies. I can motorize these guys and run them through if things are not protected. That's got nothing to do with the breakout. Breakout is, if things aren't so good, I can take a 1/3 chance to come back in as a reinforcement X number of turns in the future. Basically, the idea is that I've split apart and gotten enough of the unit, you know, slipping through in little bits and whatnot. So I definitely will need to stretch a couple of these units down here now. Is it every other hex that I'm going to want, or is it something a little bit? So remember, zones aren't that important, but truck units can't go through zones. So if I do something like this, but I think this is problematic enough. If he wants to go running his trucks around this way, I'll let him try. Yeah. Because the other option is I'll have zones throughout all of this, and that causes some serious problems. I want to grab that supply point, make sure the poles don't come crashing through. I think this is fine. I don't think I'm not facing that nasty an enemy. I realized how badly I'm going to pocket these Brits. I might not have made this attack and lost Rommel, but it's cool because everything's happening, you know, going off the rails in this game. So yeah. By the way, I have a fifth light left. I still want to call it Legion. But, you know, it's just one unit of the command, so it's fine that the truck's not up there. The truck's not going to really be able to help it. That basically that one battalion would eat the entire supply point of the truck for anything I wanted to do with it. Because I'm not allowed to use it for, I'm not allowed to use the organic trucks for independent units like I would in some other OCS games. Axis do not have the capability to launch another attack. I'm at one supply point. I decided, instead of loading up at Benghazi, which isn't very rich in supply either, with less than 2, I'm sending a full truck point back to Tripoli. Although I could conceivably pick this up and go if the numbers work out where Tripoli's not good. Like if I can't reach Tripoli next turn and load up, probably, I don't know, but certainly reach it. I may stop and pick up from one of these piles and head back up. Because these aren't doing me any good whatsoever. It was just a matter of ship them out of Tripoli, but I would like to ship another full supply point out of Tripoli. Benghazi's just, yeah. I've got enough trucks that I'm pulling shit out of Benghazi quickly enough. Now, the question is this good enough? Because the Brits might be able to make their way out. If like this stack, and I don't know if it's capable of it, but if it could break through one of those hexes, or if we can break through here, that might be better than the breakout thing. But here's the thing, the breakout is made during the supply phase, which means we might be able to do an overrun attack or something like that in order to test our capability to get out. Because this is a very thin line here. I think that's it for the Italian side. Okay, now we got a problem here. April 41, on turn 29, I'm supposed to place in the dead pile 2 RHA Artillery Battalion Red. I've got this in there. This is a yellow one. This is not it, and I couldn't find it in this pile. Which may mean that it exists somewhere else and is just, you know, destroyed equipment, basically. For some reason, it's in the removed pile. Huh. Well, that's weird. I don't know when that happened or why or how. Or whether this is supposed to, I don't know. I'm going to have to look back in the things. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have removed it unless it told me to remove that unit specifically. Of course, I might have mistaken something. But let's see. Something kind of interesting here. Exchange Western Desert Corps. This was way back. I'm looking for this. Western Desert Corps headquarters with 13 Corps headquarters. The weird thing about remove, about exchange, is I don't think it's supposed to be removed. Generally, exchanges, the replacement goes in the bag, and I'm just done with it. For some reason, I put this in the removed pile. I don't know why. I'm looking, I don't know how that got there or why. It's so fucking hard, you know, to scan all of this to look for this one particular RHA unit. It's just painful. So this got removed back in March of 41. It's April now, about a month later. I guess it just comes out of the removed pile and makes its way back into the dead pile. I'm not sure that's what's intended. It may be that it's supposed to turn into the yellow one. I gotta trust this though. I mean, again, there are a couple of corrections in it. I've put those, you know, from the guidance, but the chances of something being in error are very high. The fact that there's only a couple of corrections, I find surprising. But then I start thinking, what are the chances that somebody figures out that, hey, I played this whole game and I didn't use this unit? Maybe. But then not only would they have to make that decision, but they would also have to look back and prove that they were following the, you know, withdrawals and placements correctly, which really involves reading every single line of it again and again just to make sure, like going through, and obviously you can use search and replace and whatever. But a game this old, it's possible that like there's not an electronic copy even in Dean's hands. I know back when so this is older than, this game is newer than what I had as an issue. When I asked Dean for the original CWB rules, because they contained something that I was very excited about, this sort of personality profiles for commanders. He didn't have an electronic copy of it, but he was able to find a hard copy that he could send me, which was just the most wonderful thing. I mean, like I said, the gamers once upon a time, before they merged with MMP, or before they allowed MMP to like manage their front end sort of stuff, they were just so far beyond anybody else in the industry that had ever existed at any size, okay? I mean, look, there were companies where you would get a hold of, yeah, the owner or whatever. I didn't write to Dean. I didn't know him. I wrote an email to the company, and he's the one who responded with, yeah, I've looked for it. I can't find an electronic copy, but I'll mail you a copy. And it's just like, wow. You know, I'd gladly have paid a couple of bucks for the postage at the least, you know, for that. But I was just so happy. And, you know, I was kind of poor then, so I didn't immediately, like, make an offer. But, yeah, it was really kind of impressive. Anyway, in this case, I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to get replaced with the yellow one at this point to indicate that, A, we're replacing those points. What am I doing? I'm trying to do the British turn. I just brought in a new artillery piece and shifted that over there. And they got a manpower replacement, so I can start rebuilding stuff. My first attempt was to try to overrun this Ariete unit. Both were able to get supplies. I've got tons of supplies back here that I'm able to, I don't know if I'm able to actually finish for. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I was able to, because I was attacking from this hex. I got surprised and ended up losing a whole brigade due to that. And now this is actually out of movement points, so it's not going to go any further. Tilt that just to remind me of that. I'm trying to batter some sort of way through. Then when the supply phase comes, if I need to, I can try to break out, but maybe I can eat off the map from here as well. Depending on what's going on. I've got issues because I can't run through this hex. There's just all kinds of problems. And my truck units can't make their way out. And it's like I'm just a little too pinned in. I'm very close, but this sort of weak picket, yeah. And it wouldn't have mattered if they were closer together. The weak picket is just not enough to prevent so many British units from attacking, but I mean, there's disorganized units and shit like that. I've got no hip shot capability. Now the other stack here the disordered guys, managed to destroy the Ariete unit, but at the cost of this 4 RTR. Now, this unit gets replaced. I've got a 4 RTR up there with a greatly inferior version of it itself. That's life, man. And now after escaping, I'm going to try to blow the dump. And that's almost 10. On a 6, we get it all. This is during our movement segment. If the Axis does not get a reaction to take the dump, okay, we get 25% of it here. Didn't think this game had it. It doesn't. There's no interdiction other than train busting, which won't help for air units. I was thinking, well, if I could lay down some like movement point costs, penalties, whatever, I could help these guys get away, because they're not assured to be able to get away. They move their full movement allowance. They're not going to be able to react or anything like that. Of course, I could get a double turn. Axis went first. A DAK leader got an action. He has enough movement points to go into that hex. No more than that, really. But he gets to roll over here on the capture table and see how much of it he gets. How much of the remainder. So he gets 25% of the remainder. There's like 7.5 points, something like that left. I don't know. Worked out to be about one supply point and 3 tokens and a little bit more that, gets lost in the rounding. Guess I can check for whether these guys get to move too. This is all armor. I don't want to move that. I've got like 2 tokens left here. I've got, out of what was like 20, over 15 supply points. I've gotten less than 2 of them. So the big bonanza was not there. While I'm rolling these, and these guys move forward as well, I forget, I got some of these guys up here who could speed up my movement a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. Got a guy back here. No, okay. But it's something to keep in mind. And yeah, so it wasn't as terrible for the Brits as I thought it was going to be. But it's still not, they're not out of the woods yet. They're not out of the woods yet. And they have lost their entire line, and Alexandria is definitely threatened. There's danger of an outflank still, because all I have is 2 hedgehogs here that I built because, hey, why not? I didn't want to just, build a line of forts across here. And honestly, I don't have the troops to hold a line of forts. So I'm probably just going to have to fall back again. That is the end of the month, which means we move this here, move that there, and let's just keep plugging along, I guess. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the campaign has been won by the Italians, right? Like, yeah, the Germans helped, but they just got wiped out in trying to do so. Sure, I got the 15th Panzer, but that hasn't even come into play. The 5th pretty much is destroyed. Rommel's dead. And I'm not absolutely certain that the Italians couldn't have done it without the Germans. I don't know. But it is the Ariete division that did the final cut. It's just a matter of, wow, the massive Italian forces that were available for the counterattack. And I mean, there's just more coming, right? They're just stringing through. And there's almost nothing from the Brits. And largely because of this Greek, the Greek withdrawals have just, depleted everything. I don't know. I don't feel like I've done a great job. Well, I don't feel like I've done a great job on anything. Because I can't hold the defenses I try to hold. But also, I failed in those early attacks. Basically, the Commonwealth has just been played by a piss poor player. I'm not sure the Axis has been played by a particularly good player. All right. I guess we send this up as is, and we'll start. We'll go into May and see if the Italians may have the rest of Egypt. I don't know. All right. Fun.